How do you discuss topics like jihad if your content can't be shared online? Rizwan Wadan is a Muslim filmmaker who is tackling misconceptions about Islam and all forms of terrorism. We first featured his work last year when he was showing his Error in Terror work in pubs and clubs in Luton and then around the UK. Riz has been trying to share his short films on social media, but has come up against some problems whilst doing so, and he joins me on the line now. Good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning, Andy.
Remind us about your campaign then and the films that you've made.
Right, so we've got a film that is basically, it is a fictional piece. It's got a lot of VFX in there, and it's aimed at building bridges. And basically, we've shot a behind the scenes of this journey, which you guys were a part of. We had some of your team actually come out with us and, go to the pub at the Bricklayers Arms. And anyway, we've been filming a behind-the-scenes documentary of that, which we wanted to turn into a feature-length doc. We partnered up with Oxford Scientific Films to be able to basically get it commissioned, and it's in that sort of stage of getting permission to either go on one of the broadcast channels or on Netflix or any other sort of platforms. At the moment, we're sort of trying to negotiate with that. We're at that process. So I put up a trailer for this documentary, which is a 2-minute trailer of the behind the scenes of creating this high sort of visually impactful fictional sort of piece. There's nothing sensational about that. And basically, on Facebook, we were restricted from advertising it.
Well, just before I get to that, I just want to say, and just to give some more background, sometimes with these sort of community films, they can look a bit cheap. Is that fair to say? That's fair to say. But because of your skills, your stuff has the proper special effects, doesn't it?
Well, basically, I mean, I've worked on films like Star Wars, I've worked on The Favourite, and I rallied and I got a lot of people. The film has been sponsored by some of the most respected companies in the filming industry and some of the most respected individuals who've actually backed this project. So it's not actually backed by any political parties, it's not been backed by the government. I put that £70,000 of my own money into it to try and get it made. A couple of organisations have helped, but it's been a very difficult it's been a difficult journey to get it off the ground, right? So it was quite a bit of a personal struggle to get this off the ground. But I'm a filmmaker, and what's happening is that on Facebook, when they've restricted this promotion of it, so it's online on Facebook, but when they restricted the advertisement, it wasn't something that happened after. I mean, it went straight into review. So as soon as I tried to sort of place an advert, it's gone into review, and they rejected it. So then I felt that there was something wrong with that, because there's nothing wrong with this, like, to promote a trailer. Like, I've seen so many trailers online for films such as Hotel Mumbai, or, there's so many films out there which depict Muslims as pretty much the bad guys, and they have scenes of that are sensationalists, of people shooting and doing all sorts of, even explosions. And we see these in trailers. And what my trailer has is just one behind the scenes, and you can see it's like a technical explosion in there. There's nothing sensationalist about that, and it's just a documentary trailer. And the thing that I found sort of alarming was that it went straight into review and it got rejected.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? For those who are unfamiliar with the ins and outs of Facebook, you've uploaded it fine, people can see it, but when it comes to promoting it, essentially, paying to put it on people's feeds, that's where you've encountered the issues, isn't it?
I've encountered the issues straight away, but then they've asked me to become register as a political activist. And I was like, what? I hope as a campaigner, political activist, and they want IDs, and they want to confirm my address. And so, I put all those details in. They sent me letters to my home, and I thought to myself, hold on a minute, I'm a filmmaker. Why am I asked to become a political activist? Quite frankly, I just reflect a mirror in society. Why am I asked to be, to do that? So another friend of mine put my video, the same trailer, up on TikTok, and that's another story, because that went online and it was just removed. And after 3 hours, and I provided the evidence of this to Phil, and your team, and so that is something. I mean, I had to end up sort of, I was thinking, why would they remove that? So I opened up an account. I didn't have a TikTok account, but what I did was the use of language on my tags. I changed it. So I just put in, like, I removed anything to do with anti-terrorism. I removed anything to do with jihad. And in fact, I just used the language of film on there. And they didn't remove it. So that was quite interesting to see. But the fact that my trailer, because I mentioned that this is my jihad, the algorithms are picking up on something. So because it wasn't the fact that it was like either the page that we have is already monitored or it's already being watched because there's certain keywords that we're using. So once we get to the bottom of that, so those are the interesting things that we have to sort of investigate at the moment. And also, there's a lot of content that is basically either restricted because of community guidelines, and I think Facebook has got back to us and said, look, the reason why we've restricted the advertising on this is because your content is basically because of sensational content. So there's a lot of content out there on Facebook that gets through. I mean,
that's the thing, Riz. I mean, we have contacted both Facebook and TikTok, and I'll get Ben to read out what they've said in a moment, but. As you touched on earlier, and you've compared it to other Hollywood films, they have explosions and all sorts. They have bad characters.
Not only that, but they depict Muslims as the bad guys in those. I mean, Hotel Monday, if you just look at that trailer, it's like these Muslims are, and it's based on a real incident that actually happened, a terrorist attack. And in this movie, there are these terrorists that are basically sensationalizing Muslims as terrorists in that movie. And there's a trailer, there's trailers on Facebook.
So your point sounds like, what's the difference between my film and theirs?
Yeah, my films and theirs, and also, look, I work on films, and I'm allowed to sort of like, okay, so if an individual like myself who has got a lot of strategic alliances with a lot of filming companies, a lot of basically I'm established. And if I'm established in the film industry, and if I can struggle, and if I'm going to have these stumbling blocks on trying to sort of holistically open a dialogue about jihad and open a dialogue about extremism and terrorism, then what chance do other individuals who are not in the film industry, who may want to discuss this, where are they going to open these dialogues and debates? Where are they going to learn about jihad? And if we, push that underground, then that's a dangerous place. People but
Riz, if I may, right, social media companies have been criticised, for shirking their responsibilities. Surely it's good that they're being vigilant about what's going up online.
No, that is 100%. That's fair. That's that's a good thing for that to happen. But again, these are certain things that, for example, there's a lot of. I mean, we've looked at some of this regarding sort of like what we're doing. We've got nothing that promotes. Basically, we've been on Facebook for 3 years, I think. Our journey is quite long, and we find these sort of restrictions that we need to look into these algorithms. We need to look at, Facebook needs to look into this and find a way for this to be discussed. So if that's the point is that if somebody like myself, if Aaron Terror and individuals like myself who are vetted, who are having this sort of a struggle, then individuals who do not have such a backing, do not have such a platform, where are they going to learn about this? So that's the problem.
Well, look, we have contacted both Facebook and TikTok about this. Executive producer Ben, what have they said? And then I'll get your reaction afterwards.
Yeah, it's worth saying both companies are investigating this and getting to the bottom of what's happening here. Riz has mentioned that there are ongoing discussions. TikTok have confirmed that on Riz's page, the films are still up on there, including the Error in Terror trailer. However, as Riz explained, they were using different hashtags which didn't mention words like jihad. So we've gone back to them to clarify about the other account that Riz mentioned that was that had used some of those hashtags, which did have the content removed. Just to clarify what's going on there, and is this about an algorithm, for example, that may have just be picking things up because of a computer, just looking for keywords. Like I said, that's an ongoing discussion we're having with TikTok, so they're investigating that. Mm-hmm. In terms of Facebook, Facebook have told us that in this case, the advertisement highlighted was rejected for violating their advertising policies on sensational content. which states adverts must not contain shocking, sensational, disrespectful, or excessively violent content. They went on to point out that if Mr. Wadan would like to run advertisements about social issues, he can register as a political advertiser, which I think is some of what Riz has already mentioned.
Cheers, Ben. I appreciate it. Riz, what do you reckon to all of that?
Well, the thing is that this is something. This particular film has what was the best of the best as a short film, right? So, the thing that I find sort of alarming for myself is that I'm a filmmaker. I reflect a society and mirror. Well, I reflect a mirror in society, and certain films that I make, they are dealing with these issues of extremism or maybe terrorism, and there are a lot of films that do that. So, if Universal Studios or if any other filming 20th Century Fox or Disney or whatever, they decide to make films based on these individuals, these real events, now do they have to register as political activists as a production company? They don't. They're filmmaking. They're companies that deal with, these subject matters from a entertainment perspective. Or, this is something that for me, why am I being pushed to become a political activist when I'm not? Quite frankly, I didn't vote Labour or Conservative, and I wanted to stay away from politics and try and keep a middle ground. And if I'm dealing with these issues that are, we're facing in society, and I'm going out there to meet people, with these films, and in fact, you guys have been out with us on the road, and we're going to carry on around the country at the moment. We're now looking into this and seeing how our Muslims actually portrayed in movies and films.
It sounds, Riz, that you just want a level playing field at the end of the day. I appreciate your time. We've got to move on. That was Rizwan Wadan, the Muslim filmmaker behind the Error in Terror campaign.